I just spoke with Dr. Backstrom, an assistant professor here at Widener University, who specializes in political violence and international relations, as he teaches us about the ongoing war in Iran. Dr. Backstrom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Lola. I greatly appreciate it.
The U.S. and Israel have just recently announced their war on Iran as it enters into its first week. Could you tell us a little bit more about what's going on right now?
Certainly, there's a lot going on at once, and we're kind of faced with a lot of information, and we're trying to sift through and find out what exactly has happened. But we do know that on Saturday, the United States and Israel launched a joint attack against Iran that ultimately led to the deaths of several of its high-ranking military officials. They launched attacks specifically that were targeted at military uh, important sites for the military as well as important political sites. This has also led to not only the death of the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran since 1989, but also a number of other deaths. I've seen current figures that are around between 700 and 780 deaths, including the deaths of 700 plus civilians. So it's not just military installations. There's been reports that possibly that schools have been hit as well as a hospital, but it has also led to retaliation. I mean, we didn't expect the attack because the attack came about at the face of, in the middle of diplomatic relationships or diplomatic negotiations between the United States and Iran, which seemed to be not doing completely successful, but also not doing poorly. And supposedly there was some progress on the table that actually somewhat rivaled the progress that Barack Obama was making with Iran during his administration that President Trump scrapped and said it was the worst deal ever. And it did seem like some progress was going on, but it quickly turned. And Saturday morning we all woke up to the United States and Israel attacking Iran. Has also led to other retaliation, which is expected. Iran has a very complex political and military structure. They have one of the largest I think they have the second largest standing militaries next to Egypt. Their political structure is very complicated. That has a civilian element of it as well as a theocratic element of it. And they have already retaliated against several different important allies in the Middle East, including UAE, Oman, and a number of others. This has also led to the bombing of, I'm not sure what building exactly, but in Cyprus, and even more than that, as expected, because Iran has been the largest supporter of state-sponsored terrorism for a long time, with their support of Hezbollah and Hamas and a number of other groups, but those two particularly. Hezbollah has launched attacks against Israel, and so now there's a bombing campaign of Beirut because Hezbollah controls the southern area of Lebanon. It even has political membership within their legislature. So now it's kind of a resumption of conflict between Israel and Hezbollah again.
Right. And Iran is obviously located right in the middle of the Middle East, causing its neighbors to get caught up in the conflict as well. As you mentioned, the UAE and just recently Lebanon and Saudi Arabia. So, what does this conflict mean for the Middle East and what can we kind of see in the future?
Honestly, I wish I could give you a more definitive answer. I think it's just going to be a little bit. It's going to be fairly chaotic. Um, Iran. I mean, for a long time, the United States went and played a game where we didn't want one specific country to be the kind of hegemon of the Middle East. Iran has always kind of played that they were at least at the top. They've been a very strong country, and I don't think this really goes and changes that depending upon how far we go with this. Trump has gone and stated that this may take 4 to 5 weeks. It may take longer, and we ultimately don't know. I know that Iran has never been really a friend to Israel, so I know this this certainly works out in Israel's favor that they definitely did not want a nuclear or a potential nuclear Iran because they've been their biggest threat. I think it kind of puts everyone on their toes, kind of apprehensive of what's going to be next, especially because Iran has had, I mean, they have a vast military complex, which I'm sure they're going to continue to use or attempt to use. I mean, they when they did get into a battle with Israel, Israel also has significant defense technology
Hmm.
that really warded off almost every single attack that Iran made against Israel directly. But that doesn't mean that they're going to completely just go and attack Israel. They may go and attack other countries that are important to Israel and the United States. And even more than that, we have no idea where this is going to lead to more, or excuse me, like less conventional responses. So, i.e., terrorism. I would venture to say that there's probably going to be an uptick in the probability of a terrorist response.
Hmm. And you mentioned previous administrations kind of trying to tackle this problem and, have some negotiations. Recently, former Vice President Kamala Harris just put out a statement condemning the Trump administration for their actions during this war. What does this mean for America and this administration? Could we see any changes happening soon as, opposition to this war kind of increases?
I think that Well, I just read today that the GOP, Republican Congress, is asking Trump to really kind of give the ins and outs of like, why did you do this? Because I mean, again, you know, Israel and Iran literally just went and attacked each other last June, and supposedly, really hurt Iran and their military capabilities. Um, and even more than that, Trump basically said around the same time that they took out their nuclear capabilities. They're not, that this was going to happen. And then just a week ago, one of Trump's defense officials noted that they were 60% uh, completion towards, weapons grade nuclear power. And there's so much going on, so much being said by different people. It's really hard to go and gain a good idea of what exactly is happening. Um, I did read also that it seems now I don't want again I don't want to play conspiracy theorist, but in the same regard that it seemed that Israel was going to preemptively launch attack against Iran. They did not like the negotiations between the United States and Iran during Obama's term, and the United States decided to go and jump on board and also attack preemptively, despite the fact that there was being some progress made. Um, I think that right now everyone's apprehensive about having feet on the ground. At present, there has been 6 military U.S. servicemen killed. There's 18 wounded. There's not feet on the ground that we know of. And I think if it led to something like that, I mean, first and foremost, I mean, if we try to go and make the analogy of Nicaragua or a Iraq, and I think that a lot of policymakers are really apprehensive of having another Iraq there, literally right next door. So you bring up the same analogy, but it's a very different element to it, and it's a very different government. I mean, first and foremost, you took out the supreme leader, but you have a council of Ayatollah, Grand Council of Ayatollahs called the Council of Guardians. They're already meeting to try to go and find a successor to Khamenei. There's a lot of nuances, and it's much more complex than I think a lot of people are looking at. And they're trying to go and get the answer from Trump is what's
Hmm.
next and
Hmm.
what's the outcome of this. I mean, we agree with the outcome. Khamenei was certainly not a good person by any means.
Right.
But in the same regard, where are we going with this? And I think that's what they're very
Hmm.
apprehensive of. And I think also, I mean, the point of we're really kind of taking a little bit of a different process in our foreign policy,
Hmm.
where we're kind of like shoot first, answer questions later, or at least to the public, answer questions later. The removal of 2 leaders, within 6 months of
Hmm.
each other, and through a military manner. That's not normally the way the United States does things. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, a bad outcome. I
Right,
do just fear that where does this go and lead the United States in the future? Do our allies go and feel the same way about how, we're conducting our foreign policy?
right. And finally, as you've spent many years analyzing wars such as these and conflicts, how do you see this situation evolving in the future? And can you, tell us to expect any changes coming up in the upcoming days, months, or even years?
It's hard to say. I After the 2016 elections, I told my wife I would no longer offer any kind of predictions regarding Donald Trump because I feel like I fail miserably when it comes to those. I think that they're probably going to go and continue to have a bigger emphasis on the Department of War. I don't think that unless there's something dramatically negative comes out of this, that they can't really go and spin to GOP lawmakers and the public as being a positive development. So I think if we go and get into a retracted conflict in Iran, I think it's very difficult to go and spin. I mean, the whole issue of um, I read somewhere today, Trump said that, wars can go on forever. And he ran in on his campaign of, ending the forever wars. And then now this is something kind of going back on what he actually promised. I wonder, I wonder how much this is going to affect the midterm elections. I wonder how this is going to affect his presidency and, whether or not how much the people will go and tolerate of this. And I do honestly think that this will go and lead to future events of terrorism. I don't whether or not this would lead to events of terrorism in the United States is certainly contingent upon our intelligence agencies and their abilities to thwart that. But I do think, throughout the rest of the world, there will be a terrorist threat, and there will be some kind of response. And I whether or not this will go and change how the United States is currently conducting its foreign policy making. I don't think it will, but I do think that there's more conflict and violence in the future.
Mhm. Well, Dr. Backstrom, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you again so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.